It's U of L Today on 93.9 The Ville. Here's your host, Mark Hebert.
And welcome to U of L Today with Mark Hebert on 93.9 The Ville. So glad you're joining us for the next 30 minutes or so. Hope to give you lots of information. Good news about the University of Louisville. A little bit later on in the show, we're going to talk about police departments, including the City of Louisville, as well as the University of Louisville, are installing or already using body cameras on their officers. And a U of L criminal justice professor is doing research on police use of body cams, including how they're changing the public's perception of police use of force, as well as body cameras' role in police shootings. He's also got some interesting preliminary findings from a study that he's doing with LMPD, and we'll be talking to him. But first, it's a brand new school year at the University of Louisville, and once again, Louisville has its most academically prepared freshman class in history. There are also buildings opening, going up, coming down, new programs and new places to eat on campus. Lots of new stuff. And here to talk about this year's freshman class and what's new at U of L are Dean of Students Michael Mardis and the lady who recruited this freshman class, Director of Admissions Jenny Sawyer. I guess you didn't recruit them all by yourself, did you?
Most of them. No, just joking, just teasing.
You're so humble, that Jenny Sawyer. Well, welcome to both of you. Thanks for coming on the show again and talking about this year's freshman class and what's
Thanks
new
for having us
at the university. All right, Jenny Sawyer, Director of Admissions, let's talk a little bit about this freshman class. What are you proud of?
So I think I'm most proud of the diversity. I think when all the numbers are finally totaled, it will be our most diverse freshman class in the history of the university. And as the nation and the Commonwealth becomes more and more diverse, I'm proud of how we're working hard to keep pace with that and continue to be the most diverse institution in the state of Kentucky.
And when you say diversity in the numbers, what are we talking about in terms of percentage?
Hispanic students, African American students. We also have a significant increase in out-of-state students. We have a small bump in international students coming to us from, I think, about 18 to 20 different countries. Around the globe. So, diversity in a lot of different ways. The university was just named one of the top LGBT-friendly institutions. We did some special outreach efforts to attract LGBT students last year, and we're very proud of the students that have found the university to be a good home for them.
And the number I have is 13.5% of the incoming freshmen are African American. Is that a solid number?
Yeah, that is a very solid number. Yeah.
So 1 out of every 7, basically, kids is African American coming onto U of L's campus this fall.
Yeah, and it's in Kentucky, African American students are our largest minority group, and so there's a lot of competition for those kids, and they are some of our very, very best students in our freshman class. There are students who had lots of choices. There are students who were accepted into some of our very top academic enrichment programs, such as the Brown Fellows program. So we're very, very proud of that. And some of them are some of the top local kids who watch every day the amazing transformation at the University of Louisville and said, you know what, I'm going to stay here, be a part of this, and help the university continue to become a better place.
We'll talk about academics in a minute, but Mike Mardis, why is it important to have a diverse freshman class at the University of Louisville?
If you think about our students going out into the world, they're going to be competing for jobs and working with people globally. So they've got to be able to understand and work with people that have different perspectives from them, different lens in which they look at life, different identity, and to be able to work successfully with them. And so there's also the opportunity to learn from that as we seek and try and get more of our students to travel internationally. If we have international students coming here, it's an opportunity for them to be able to learn from those students. But we also want to get our students out and be able to allow them to be the future leaders of the Commonwealth, of our country, and of the world. And this helps them to be able to do that.
Mike Mardis is the Dean of Students at the University of Louisville. We're also talking with Jenny Sawyer, who's the Director of Admissions at U of L. What do you find from students who come in from out of state or from out in the state, from rural counties, mostly white rural counties in Kentucky? What do they say about the University of Louisville? Is that a reason that they come here? Go ahead, Jenny.
I had one of those students in my office yesterday. She is from Pendleton County, a Governor Scholar. So we have well over 200 Governor Scholars in our freshman class. And she loved the vibrancy of the campus. She was attracted to all of the amazing things happening in the city of Louisville. Restaurants often play a role. They actually hear about what a great foodie town we are, and I have to remind them that college is expensive, so they need to watch how much they spend in our local restaurants. But I think it's a combination, and it's that attraction for young people to want to live in metropolitan areas.
I think some of it is the amenities. So they see the nice residence halls. Yesterday we had an ice cream social, and I had a student who was from out in Kentucky. He's like, I'm in the rec center every day. This is great. He never played racquetball before, and doing those things. And I also think the outstanding academic programs. When I talk to students that are coming to the university, and I'm asking them why the University of Louisville, a lot of times, we've got a large number of engineering students that are coming in this year, and they talk about the co-op programs. One of the great things about the university is we have this vibrant campus that's here, and it's got very much of a campus feel, and for our students they can experience a little bit more of a traditional college setting. But we're so close to the downtown heart of the city that they can engage in nonprofits, they can engage in internships, they can have an opportunity to have the university's exposure to so many businesses and have those co-op experiences in engineering. So I think that's also a draw.
And let's not forget UPS. As UPS continues to grow, it would not surprise me if in about a month we will announce that this will be the largest number of UPS students that are working through the Metropolitan College program and having all of their tuition paid by that program. And so as college gets more expensive, that is a draw for students to be able to find a place where they can go to a great institution, get a great education, and have that opportunity for a job that pays for their school and allows them to graduate debt-free.
And UPS has been a great partner with the university, so not just in the recruitment standpoint, but even once students are here on campus. Just last night, they were helping to sponsor our ice cream social. They come in and help and bring people over to help with our move-in that we have when we have our freshman move-in in the residence halls. So they've been a great partner with the university.
So that's a big deal for the university. Let's talk a little bit about the academic success of the incoming freshman class and I guess of UofL students in general. Jenny, you helped recruit this class. What's their GPA, their average GPA of the students, and the ACT scores of these students that are now at UofL?
So their average grade point average is a 3.6. Their average ACT is a 25.5, which is well above the state average and the national average. Over half of them are coming in with some college credit. We have, I believe, 3 people in the freshman class who actually came in with 90 hours of college credit.
90 hours?
Did you come in with 90 hours, Mark?
Yeah. So that makes them, what, a senior? Does that make them a senior when they start?
That does make them senior. We do have one young lady who her goal is to actually start law school next year as a part of a new initiative we have for people to do their senior year.
So she'll be in her second year of college starting law school.
That's what we're hoping for. Yeah,
Jeez,
that's what we're hoping for.
That's crazy. Well, what's the average number of hours that you said? How many? What percentage of students enter with some?
That number grows every day. So right now it's sitting a little over 50%.
So
it'll probably end up at about 60% of our freshmen will come in with some either dual credit or AP work or some type of advanced credit. So that that gives them a bump up. It allows them either to graduate early. It allows them to stay on track. It allows them to do a minor, a second major.
Yeah, we have a lot of students that are doing the second majors just to give them more flexibility, more options about what they can do in the future. And they say, I can take on another major or minor here. And they like to be able to have those choices.
But their average grade point is 3.6. Wow. That's those are smart kids.
The high schools in Kentucky particularly have been increasing their college readiness rates. You look at the Bullitt School District and the transformation that has happened there in their percentage of college-ready students. And there's lots of examples I could give. But Bullitt's obviously one of our feeders because it's so close. So, we like to take some credit for that, and we work very hard to attract those students that are college-ready and then also the superstars. But, our school districts across Kentucky have been working very hard to have a pool of college-ready students for us to then work hard to keep in the state of Kentucky.
We're with Mike Mardis, who is the Dean of Students at the University of Louisville, and Jenny Sawyer, who is the Director of Admissions. And we're talking about all the new stuff going on campus this semester, the fall semester. So, Michael, there is a bunch of new stuff on campus. There's construction going on. There are 2 new student housing places. There's new places to eat. Why don't you go over a little bit of what the students found when they showed up on campus in August?
Well, they saw a lot of construction and things occurring with some of the roadway projects, particularly on Floyd Street. So if anybody comes on campus frequently, they've seen that has been undergoing a major transformation. There's been a roundabout that's been put in place at Floyd and Cardinal. So that's some changes of the infrastructure. That's come from state roadway dollars. So that's not university money.
There haven't been too many crashes at the roundabout, I've been told.
No,
so everybody's been pretty good about it.
I keep telling students, you have to go right in the roundabout, because early one morning I came and I pulled up next to somebody and they just went left, and I'm like, you're going there. Fortunately, nobody else was coming the other way. So there is some adjustment. I had a student tell me earlier this week, they go, that roundabout's great. We should have roundabouts at every intersection. So there's been some changes on the streets. We have the 2 new affiliated apartment residence hall complexes with the opening of University Point, which is just across from the library, and then the 9, which is just across from the student center. That's going to bring another 900 beds for our students on campus. And we're now at a place where we can house, actually, with our university housing on campus and some of our affiliated partners just on the edge of campus, over 7,000 students in university housing. And that's been intentional and part of the last 10 years university strategic plan to grow the number of residential students and opportunities for good quality living environments. We know nationally, we know from our statistics at the university, students that live on campus, they complete more hours in a year, they retain at the university, and they graduate at better rates. So that's something intentional about creating this community, because it was much more a commuter school in the past. When I was a student here in the late 80s, early 90s, that was much more what the institution is. So that's helped to really change this vibrancy of campus.
Right, and we took a tour of the 2 new student housing projects in the last few days, and I think one student said, it may not be great to have this kind of living that I have right now, because I'll be comparing every place else I live in my life to this place, because it's so nice. I mean, the amenities and stuff,
right.
Marble countertops and a pool and hot tubs and tanning beds and those kinds of things. Is that a selling point, or is it gotten to the point where and it's not that it wasn't that much more expensive than living in the old-fashioned dormitory?
One of the good things that has occurred is because of how we've arranged our affiliated properties, there's different private partners that we partner with. And so they have to make sure that they're competitive in the marketplace. And because we have a certain volume, then we've seen those apartments who've had to be more competitive to lower rates or to give attractive offers for students. So that has helped. What we see is our nicer residence halls, our facilities that have private bathroom locations, that students are opting for that, and that a lot of times those are the places that would fill up first. But we did complete a market analysis here a few months ago, doing surveys and talking with our students about what they see and what their needs are. So we continue to evaluate that and decide what's going to be the best for going forward.
So we have some new living learning communities on campus. So we have
what's that? What's a living learning?
A living learning community is where students kind of with common interests live together. There's enrichment programs.
They take classes together.
They take some classes
so you'll have
together.
faculty
a bunch of
who come
engineering
in,
students live together.
and they take the same courses, so then they can study together, and they're living in the same space.
Gotcha.
And those students perform really well.
So we have a new living learning community that is specially focused on students who are still exploring what they want to study. And so they're doing that in conjunction with the Career Center, with some arts and sciences faculty, with the Advising Center for Exploratory Students in the College of Arts and Sciences. There's a new living learning community for business students who are in the honors program. There is expanded living learning opportunities for all of our honors students, for our engineering students.
The service opportunities.
There's a service living learning community. So that's something that will continue to grow over the next few years as we look for collaboration and partnership with special interest and with academic areas.
And before we wrap up here, we got about a minute left. I want to talk about there's construction going on in the heart of campus, which a lot of people wouldn't necessarily see, but a lot of folks know that Crawford Gym is coming down. There was recently a groundbreaking for the SAC. So talk a little bit about those buildings that are going up and being expanded in the heart of campus, and why that will add so much to the academic nature of UofL's campus.
So there's the new academic building, which will be in the location where Crawford Gym is. So that is starting to come down. I saw it the other day, and it had an opening in the roof. I'm like, oh, that's probably the most fresh air it's gotten in there. A lot of times it can be hot in Crawford Gym, and it's like, oh, it'd probably be nice to go play basketball in there now. You get some fresh air flowing through there. But the new academic building, which is really needed, will have new laboratory spaces. We'll have over 50 in this new academic building. It's an $80 million million building funded from the state. We'll have over 50 classroom lab spaces for students, or common meeting rooms for students to be able to have classes in. And then the faculty, there's going to be opportunities for them to learn in these new classrooms with new technologies, and not just lectured row seating, but an opportunity to move those around, put students in groups in pods, and to be able to be innovative in their teaching strategies. We also have the Student Activity Center renovation.
So there's also a Student Success Center in the new academic
Yes.
building. So all of our academic support services, our exploratory advising, and our career center
and tutoring.
We'll all be in
and
the same
tutoring
place.
will all be coming together in
Right.
one place where most of our freshmen and sophomore will take their
And
classes.
real quick, Michael, we've got about 30 seconds left. Why is it a big deal, the renovation and the expansion of the Student Activity Center?
So as we've seen the transformation and this vibrancy that people talk about on campus, we've gone from 200 clubs and organizations to over 420 clubs and organizations in the last decade. So we've seen more students that are here, they're engaged, they're getting involved in activities. Really, the Student Activity Center serves as kind of like a family room and a place for them to go and hang out. And it was built and opened in 1990. And so as the campuses expand, our students have just seen we need more options. We need more options for food service. They need more options for the programming, the events they do. If you look at Raise Red, if you look at our international fashion show, if you look at the international banquet, there's all these events that students want to have, and we really are struggling to be able to find the space for them.
20-second pitch.
October 15th, mark your calendars. We're going to have a huge open house on campus for students looking at University of Louisville for fall of 17 or fall of 18. If you've got a neighbor, a niece, a nephew, a daughter, a grandchild, bring them to campus, spend the day, see the transformation, and introduce them to the University of
And
Louisville.
for those of you who haven't been on campus in a while, you won't recognize it. Brad Campbell is a professor of criminal justice at the University of Louisville who's been focusing a lot of his research on the use of police body cameras. What difference are they making, if any, in the way police are doing their jobs and the way the public is perceiving police work? So welcome, Brad.
Thank you.
You're relatively new to the University of Louisville, right?
Yes.
Been here how long?
About a year and a month.
Okay. You came from?
I came from Sam Houston State University in Texas, Huntsville, Texas. It's about 45 minutes northeast of Houston.
Okay. All right. So let's talk a little bit about some of the research you've been working on. Why don't you talk a little bit about why you got into the looking at police body cams and what you've done as far as your research?
Okay. Well, when I came into the University of Louisville last July, I had the opportunity to get involved with an evaluation of Louisville Metro's implementation of body-worn cameras. So myself and a former graduate student from the UofL Department of Criminal Justice PhD program started a project with them to evaluate how these body-worn cameras would impact things like police use of force, complaints against officers, arrest rates, and officer productivity and things like that.
So that's what you're working on just with LMPD, right?
Correct.
But this has been a nationwide, I mean, there are others studying the same thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what have been some of the findings of from the police departments that have started using body cams?
Okay, so overall, what we're finding in the research and what some of my colleagues have found, for instance, in the Phoenix Police Department, are that overall the body-worn cameras are having a positive influence. They're doing what we would expect them to do as a society, in that they're reducing the use of force by police officers, enhancing compliance among citizens. If they know that there's a body-worn camera there, they might be more likely to comply with officer requests. They're also reducing largely the complaints against officers, in that if there's video account of something, it's no longer a, kind of he said type instance. They actually have proof of that incident. And what it's also showing is that when there is a complaint that comes in with a body-worn camera, that those complaints are less likely to be sustained, because the evidence in the camera shows that either the complaint wasn't valid or what the officer didn't violate some type of departmental policy or law.
So far, it's helped police more than anybody else, right? On this one, it's validated that they acted correctly when they engaged the citizen in perhaps some violent behavior.
Yes. So what it's doing essentially is it's kind of giving us, a view into these encounters with the police. So it's no longer just based on arguments on the police side or what the citizen says occurred. We actually have tape or audio recording, most importantly, about how that interaction occurred and, what the outcomes were.
Has that been what you found so far with the LMPD, the Louisville Metro Police Department's study that you're working on?
So for that study, the official results aren't out yet because we're at the midway point in that study.
So when did it start, and when do you plan to wrap it up?
So we started last August, but the cameras were implemented in 2015. So we want to get 2 years of data on use of force, complaints against officers, assaults against officers, officer productivity and things like that. We want to get 2 years of pre-data before the body-worn cameras were implemented, and then another 2 years of post-data. And then what we'll do is we'll compare and contrast those years and at probably the monthly level to understand what type of impact, if any, those cameras have had on LMPD officer activity.
So in general, at least the preliminary findings since last year, are they similar to what's been found nationwide, that the number of complaints are down and there are fewer engagements with police?
So overall, the preliminary results are showing that complaints are down at a pretty significant rate, and one of the reasons why these complaints are going down are very, very similar to what we're seeing in other agencies. For example, I might come in and complain against you as an officer saying that you yelled at me and you used obscene language. I go in to make that complaint, and then the internal affairs investigators at LMPD would look at the video and then show me the video, and then I realize my complaint's not valid because
you were the one that started the swearing and
and the officer acted calmly and collectively and didn't engage in those behaviors.
So that's what you're finding so far. Now you got another year or so of data that you want to collect, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right, we're talking with Bradley Campbell, who's a professor of criminal justice at UofL, who's been focusing his research on police body cams, which are now being used by how many police departments nationwide? Do you know?
I don't know a specific number, but I would say that the vast majority of large metropolitan police departments are implementing them now, are planning to implement them, or already have implemented them.
Have you seen any offshoots of using the police body cams and putting them on that perhaps weren't expected by any measure?
So one of the things that some of the research is starting to look at is how much video or how much you can actually capture with the body-worn camera. So as these cameras are being released to the public and as police departments are evaluating how effective they are, what we're seeing is a lot of times if they're mounted on a shoulder or even some of the glasses mount cameras, they might not capture all of the video or visual that we would expect them to. I think when they first came out, a lot of people thought that we were going to have kind of a direct first-person view of all of these encounters. But what we're finding is that, if an officer is running and chasing someone, their shoulder camera might move or it might, point in a different direction. So they're not necessarily looking forward all the time. But what they are capturing when they don't capture the video or the visual is they're capturing a lot of audio. So you can still get the context of what's happening in these interactions, both what the police and citizens are saying in the interactions, and you can kind of paint a picture of what happened, where before, again, we would just be relying on words.
One of the words against each other. Yeah, I saw some video that Louisville Metro released, I don't know, maybe a month or so ago, that the video was all looking down at the ground.
Correct.
But you could hear what was going on, but you just couldn't see exactly what was going on.
Correct.
So that's a technical glitch, I guess they got to figure out. So our police departments, including Louisville, working on that to try and figure out a better way to keep the cameras better mounted, and so what the officer is looking at and what the officer is seeing, that's what the cameras will pick up?
Yeah, so there's departments that will have different policies on where you can actually put the camera, but most places will mount it on the shoulder because then it's not blocked by, like if you hold out a taser or something, it's not going to block the camera because it's up here. But a lot of places where it captures the most visual is when they have kind of like Google Glass or it's hooked onto a face mount.
Well, I was a TV reporter for a long time, and I did some undercover investigations where I had the glasses that had the camera in the middle, and those always work great because you're looking right at your subject. And I don't know if I was running down the street chasing a suspect, if they would stay on my head. That might be
Right.
another thing to think about.
Right. And then if you don't wear glasses normally, then I wouldn't suspect that you would
It's a
want
little
to be
weird, yeah.
putting them on all the time or when you're going to have an interaction.
Do most of from what you've seen so far, from the studies you've seen, these engagements with police, if I'm a bad guy or a suspect or somebody that the police are engaging on the street, do they recognize that these police officers actually have a camera on them? Because you said earlier that the engagements are down just because the suspects or the people that are being talked to by police are seeing the cameras. But are they really? Are they just guessing that they got cameras on?
Some studies, I mean, if it's highly publicized, then a lot of people in a community would probably understand that that law enforcement agency has a body-worn camera and that it's recording, what's happening. So that might have them act differently than they would if there was no, third-party witness, which is the camera. Right. But what they found in Phoenix in their preliminary study is that that suspect behavior or citizen behavior wasn't necessarily changed by the camera, but again, those complaints and things like that were decreasing.
Wow. So that really has tamped down the number of engagements that either A, the police are walking up and doing something maybe they shouldn't, engaging people they shouldn't, and vice versa. The potential suspects or people that are being approached on the street are tamping down their engagement with police.
Correct.
What do you see for the future of police body cameras? Or what would you like to see? If perfect world, we got millions and millions of dollars that we can just hand the police and say, here's what you should do. What would you do?
So I think that overall, I mean, it's a good thing to have these cameras because, again, it's giving us that recording and account of what actually happened in these police-citizen interactions, where before we might have had a dash camera that can only, go so far and capture so much audio and things like that. So in a perfect world, I think it would be good to have cameras for all law enforcement officers because it allows them to kind of learn from their interactions, right? If I approach a situation as an officer and I say things that, kind of provoke a suspect or escalate a situation, then in the future I could go back and watch that camera and learn from it on how to fix those mistakes and how to better interact and have more public satisfaction with the police.
And perhaps a better way for the police to weed out some bad apples that just have bad attitudes.
Correct. It could be used for evaluation purposes. And then another thing that is great about the cameras is it gives transparency to what happens in these police interactions, particularly with police shooting incidents. So if a department, like LMPD has done before, they'll release the video for what occurred in an officer-involved shooting, and that allows the public to see what happened and also to see that this department is showing us what's going on. They're telling us that they're still investigating, but they wanted to share the details or all information that they had at that point, and it, enhances legitimacy and transparency with the public.
Last question that I've got. There has been some, not disputes are too strong of a term, but some disagreement over how to release the police video. I mean, some departments, the next day they're releasing the video because it shows their officer acted properly. Some departments want some time to look at it, and they don't release it for 4 or 5 days, and things kind of smolder in there. Is there any guidelines that you could give to police departments to follow or that you would suggest in releasing that video to the public when there is a shooting?
Right. So like you said, some departments are very, very quick with it and others hold on to that video for a while. But right now there aren't any standard guidelines or practices and procedures that every department is following. But releasing those videos does allow for that transparency. But I don't have any.
Yeah, you don't have a super answer, right?
Right.
I got you.
Right. If I did, I'd probably be pretty popular as a policing researcher.
All right, Brad Campbell, professor of criminal justice at UofL. Thanks for being on. Appreciate it. Really interesting stuff, and we'll look forward to finding out what your study of LMPD shows.
Sure. Thank you very much.
Thanks again for listening to UofL Today with Mark Hebert, and go Cards.